Welcome to Between the Covers TV. I'm Stephanie Larkin, an author, publisher, and owner of Red Penguin Books, a publishing company for authors of all genres. Whether you have a manuscript all ready to go or a book in your head, maybe for a decade, that's been just fighting to get out, call us at Red Penguin Books and unleash your inner author. I do want to thank our sponsor for the evening, Don Pablo Coffee. Don Pablo Coffee has beans that are individually hand-selected, and if you're like me, you need your coffee. And if you need your coffee, you need your Don Pablo Coffee. So get some at a place near you, and you will not be sorry. Please welcome our first guest today. I'm so thrilled to have with me, who is everything, an author, an editor, a book promoter, and the co-owner of a bookstore. She's in everything. Please welcome Carol Hoenig. I'm in awe. I'm in awe, Carol.
Please, mutual. Thank you.
How we could possibly have a book show on without you on it.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited.
Aren't you like, when they had all of Long Island, the top two book people, wasn't it like Nelson DeMille and Carol Hoenig? That was a thing.
That was a thing.
That was a thing.
It was a thing. I actually told them, I said, you know, the best of Long Island author. And I saw him and I said, Nelson, you know who's number 2? And he goes, I think you are. I said, I don't even know how that's possible, because Long Island has some awesome authors. They really do.
And we've had them on the show, but you're number 2.
Well, that one year I was anyway. So, yeah.
They were right that year.
Well, thank you.
And you can't be reselected.
I don't know.
You know, they want to get some
keep it fresh.
Blood.
That's
so
okay.
Exactly.
I had my time.
You had your time, and you were fabulous. Well, I want to give you a Between the Covers membership card. It's kind of like a library card.
Oh, awesome!
Because people asked, is Between the Covers a book club? It is. It's an online book club, but you can join us. Bobby, I think we have a slide for joining Between the Covers. Terrific. Just go to Between the Covers TV, and you too can join us. What do you get? Well, if you come by the studio while we're filming, you get a glass of wine. And you could also borrow books from any of our authors here. So
thank you. Oh, look at that. My name's on it.
Yes.
How awesome! How awesome is
My
that?
husband wrote it because he has much better handwriting.
Oh, I have horrible handwriting. I used to have really good penmanship, but since...
Well, now we type.
Yeah.
Now we just type and things like that.
Definitely.
Well, I want to hear first about the bookstore, and I think we have a nice picture of it that's going to come up here too. Let me see.
That's
I stole it off the internet.
I love it.
There we go.
There
did
we
I do okay?
You did great.
And I got the pictures of the wine.
Oh, yes.
And my favorite part of your store is that fireplace.
Isn't that awesome?
I love that.
Yeah.
It is such a charming store, and well, kudos to you for
Thank
opening
you.
a bookstore.
I'm a little crazy.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's
I get that.
Yep. It's we're
You're all kind of closing, but you're opening. And I love
yes.
that.
A lot of independent bookstores are really doing well.
They are.
Yes.
Because the big ones are just not doing it.
But you have to find out another niche for yourself.
Right.
And our wine bar cafe is what we have.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that you have a wine bar cafe.
Thank you.
Now, for our audience and many authors who watch the show, you also do a lot of events.
Yes.
And any of our authors can book events there. I know I want to
Yeah.
book some events coming up
Yeah,
with you.
absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about like book signings and workshops and what kinds of things could people use?
Oh, well, we do a lot of author events. Actually, another author that you're having on tonight did an event in our store, Teddy Crawford.
Wonderful. Okay.
And so, yeah, a lot of them come into our store, introduce themselves, and we get a lot of authors that have self-published. Back in the day, I used to work at Borders Books. I was a national events coordinator. Yeah.
I told you, she's the book person.
And people would come to me, and Borders would not allow self-published authors back in the day. But things
and now,
have changed.
like 50% of the books on Amazon are self-published.
Exactly, they're self-published.
And 50% of the top 10 books, even they have those top 100 rankings.
Right.
And such.
It's just so hard to get a traditional book deal anymore.
Right.
And so people, as long as the book has been vetted, edited, and we like to do book launches for
Yes,
self-published
of
authors
course.
because it's a party.
It's a party. I love
Celebrate it, absolutely. And I don't know if we mentioned the bookstore's name, but it's called Turn of the Corkscrew Books and Wine in Rockville Center.
that. Give us the address again, even though I put it on the slide.
110 North Park Avenue, Rockville Center.
Yes, please. Even though I put it on the slide. I want it out there.
No, we appreciate that, absolutely. And we do kids events. We have one of the things that's near and dear to my heart, are these events that we have once a month with kids. It was called Kids Book Gathering. We don't make them read a particular book because we don't want to make it pressure on them. We give them a theme. and we tell them to come in and talk about books that have had that theme.
Oh, okay.
So that makes it a lot of fun.
Right,
and what I do every time is I bring up The Wizard of Oz, because I say, that's in the theme. And so every month they try to pick a theme that The Wizard of Oz couldn't be a part of.
Oh.
They try to trick
But
me.
yet The Wizard of Oz has so many.
It's always found a way to come in it. They've always found a way to come in it. So, and next month we're doing a food theme, cookbooks and food. And they thought, aha, and somebody else said to me, you know, there was apples in The Wizard of Oz. They threw apples. I said, yes, I will do that. I'll bring in apples. So, yeah.
So you have like kids groups that meet regularly?
Not as much as we'd like, but we
Okay.
do once a month, and they love to come in and talk about books. And
Oh,
I love it when the kids come in, and two little girls said to me when we first opened that they thought they died and gone to heaven when they found out a bookstore was going to be in their town.
Oh, and I love your children's reading room.
Thank
you have
you.
a beautiful children's
Yeah.
room right next to the wine room for
Yeah.
the moms.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that.
It makes it convenient, you know?
Absolutely. No, that's just absolutely fabulous. And you host book clubs and workshops there as well?
Yep, all of the above. We have a lot of workshops, book clubs. You know, we're doing a wellness series that will be starting at the end of February. It's going to be starting the last Wednesday of each month. So we're not really reinventing the wheel, but we're trying to just always get excitement that there's always something going on at the bookstore.
Right, absolutely. Tell our viewers how they can find the bookstore, how they can sign up, because you have a fabulous newsletter that goes out weekly with the events and such.
We have a Facebook page called turnofthecorkscrew.com. You can email us at info@turnofthecorkscrew.com. Our number is 516-764-6000, and we're open 6 days a week. Sundays we are only open if there's a special event going on.
And you do bridal showers
Yes.
and baby showers?
Yes.
Yes. Tell us about that, because I wish
Sundays.
I had mine in a
We
bookstore.
actually are going to be doing a bridal shower in June, I think it is, and the theme is The Princess Bride.
Oh!
Which I think is going to be,
I love that.
Peggy and I we're being there for that. That's going to be a riot.
Oh,
so,
I love
yeah,
that.
so that's their whole theme.
What a great idea to have a bridal shower or a baby shower.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
For a book lover and do a theme. You know, I wish I knew. I don't think you were around back then. My daughter's Sweet 16 was Alice in Wonderland themed.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And, you know, that's exactly when she gets married, if she's still into the Alice in
really?
Wonderland, we'll have to...
Absolutely.
That's a place to do it. I
That's
love
great.
that. So all the things you didn't know that you can go there for. If you're an author and you're looking for a fabulous place for a book launch, this is where you want to go.
Yep.
If you just are looking for a night out because there's a wine bar and a
Yep.
cafe, that's where you want to go. If you're looking for interesting things to do, please sign up. I love your newsletter. I get it every
Thank
single
you.
week,
Oh,
and it
thank
tells
you.
me all the things that are going on. And
thank you.
and I love to pop in. Last time I was there, I bought the Ruth Bader Ginsburg book and the little pin for my daughter. You have all those pretty things right at the front.
Yeah, we have a lot of gift items too, definitely.
Oh, and those beautiful wine glasses. You have all sorts of gorgeous stuff.
We do,
And
yeah.
of course, fabulous books.
Yeah.
So we're just going to take a quick break, and then we're going to hear about books that Carol has written. Thanks for joining us.
Me llaman Dan Pablo y hace más de 20 años me enamoré de una colombiana. Viajé a su país y conocí un estilo de café muy distinto, muy especial. Ahora tostamos cafés excelentes, con alturas y microclimas diferentes, resultado en una taza muy compleja y muy rica, un sabor nuevo en el mundo. Fue un éxito. And I even got to keep the girl.
Do you have a book, either in your head or on your desk, just waiting to get out to anxious readers? Hi, I'm Stephanie Larkin, author, book developer, and head penguin at Red Penguin Books. We're a publishing company specializing in books of all genres and publishing in all formats, including digital, audible, and print book. From business books to romance, memoirs to mysteries, our authors have complete control over their books from start to print. We'll help get your book to booksellers all around. Major booksellers such as Amazon, Apple, Kobo, Walmart, even libraries and bookstores around the world. We believe in our authors. So call or email today to get your free publisher's packet to get started. Just visit us at redpenguinbooks.com and get your book out there and into the hands of your readers. At Red Penguin Books, you call all the shots. So call us today and turn your dreams into a reality. Welcome back to Between the Covers. We're so thrilled that you're here, and I am delighted to have author and bookstore owner Carol Hoenig with us today. Well, we got through the bookstore, but don't forget the bookstore because that's just fabulous. But I have a stack of books here.
Yes,
oh my gosh. I only got the chance to read one of them, which was amazing.
Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. And then you said to me tonight, should I put all my books out? There's more? There's more? My gosh. So tell me, now this one you wrote a while ago, but
Yes.
it won all sorts of book awards.
It did.
I
Yeah.
loved the book.
Thank
I
you so much.
absolutely loved the book. Tell us a little bit about the book. I mean, I could tell them too, but you go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it takes place in the early '60s in upstate New York, where I actually grew up.
I had a feeling because
Yep.
you knew the area very well.
Yes, I did. I never thought I would write about where I grew up because I didn't love where I grew up. It's very rural. It's upstate New York, and I'll give you an idea of why I didn't like it or what makes it show that I didn't like it. When I was 8 years old, my mom asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I asked for a sidewalk. A sidewalk. I was sincere too.
Wow.
Yeah. So I missed the culture, whatever. But so I never thought I would write about it. But there were things that had happened in real life that inspired this book. There was a big thing that had happened that I thought was going to be in the book. And every time I got to that point in the book, the characters put the brakes on it and they said, no, this didn't happen to us. And so the book actually unfolded the way it should have unfolded.
You know, I'm so glad you said that because I was speaking last week with one of our authors about methods of writing a book. And I know that you, besides all of your other credentials, work with authors on
Yes.
book development, editing, coaching, etc.
Right.
The method of kind of writing an outline of the book first and then knowing what all the scenes are going to be and kind of filling in the blanks.
Right.
And the other method being kind of letting the book evolve as it goes. And the people who are in one camp can't imagine the people in the
Yep.
other camp.
Exactly.
And it's just, you know, but it evolved. The characters really did what they wanted to do.
They really did. There were a couple of times I remember I'd be working and my kids were still quite young and it would be time for dinner and I'd go downstairs and I'm like, you're not going to believe what Vicky just did. And Vicky is one of my characters.
Yes.
And they looked at me like I lost my head and I
Right.
said, it's just amazing when it gets to that point. And she said, she just did this thing that I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's what she's supposed to do. It's not what I had intended for her to do.
Amazing.
Which I love. I love that.
That's so amazing that you do that. And I was listening to a podcast with another author who was talking about the fact that he doesn't want to outline. If he knew what the characters were going to do, he'd be bored.
Yeah.
And and now if he knows what they're going to do, it's just taking dictation.
Right.
What's the point?
Exactly.
But for your characters to actually...
Yeah, and it's funny because there are people that'll be like, well, you have to outline, and I teach writing.
I know you do. So if you say something, it means it.
And I don't like that. I say, well, what should I do as a process? I go, do what's right for you.
Right.
You know, I have 5 women in my writer's workshop, and they all have a different process. And not one of them is right and not one of them is wrong. It's what's right for them. And the only one that I kind of scolded because she said she rips up her papers when she's moved on. I said, don't. Keep your drafts because you get to see the progression of how you've grown as a writer and how the story has grown.
Right, absolutely. Oh, I'm so glad we heard from an expert that this is okay. And it's more exciting.
That's how I feel. Yeah, definitely.
So you didn't know how it was going to end?
No, I didn't.
Because I was reading it and I was like, how does it end? I have to see how it ends. So now that I'm reading it thinking, how does it end? You were writing it thinking, how does it end?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
really cool. I like that better.
Yeah, I do too. I like that. Like I have something in my mind, and it's sort of like a map.
Right.
But there's something that veers off, and I'm like, okay, that's where it's supposed to go.
Interesting. So this is where you grew up.
Yes.
Now, this book here of Little Faith.
Right. That's
Okay.
actually the first book I wrote.
Really?
This is the first book that got published. Of Little Faith was my learning process. It took me, it's so funny because on panels and stuff, I tell people, and this is true, it took me 6 months to write that book, which is not,
Right.
no, wait,
It's
that's a
nothing.
lie, 6 weeks,
That's nothing.
the first draft.
Wow.
17 years to get it right.
to edit it.
17 years, that was my first. So that's like when people, 6 weeks, that's so amazing. Yeah, but that was the first draft, and I always say it was a very fleshed out outline.
Right, right. And you know, even just saying that, I'm so glad for our viewers to hear that from a professional, because so many people think that that first draft is the book.
Right. No. No, I have to say that a lot of times. to
Yeah,
others.
you know,
there's-
many times. No,
Yeah,
we're not there yet. We're not
Nope.
there yet.
Yes.
And I
She's a
know
little way.
you and I have spoken a lot about taking away.
Yes.
That I don't know how big the first draft was, but it could have been 3 times the size
Right.
because there's so much that needs to be
Right.
edited away.
Right, and I tell writers, you can know all this stuff, which is important for know, but it doesn't have to end up in the book.
Right.
It just helps inform you with the character.
Yes. Yes. Well, I have a son who's an actor, and he talks about the fact that you should know as an actor all of the backstory.
Right.
You have to make this whole thing up in your head, but you don't say any of that.
Exactly.
You just have to know it.
I love it. Yeah.
You know, and that sounds
absolutely.
like what you're describing. And too many people put it all in the book.
Yes, they do.
And then they need Carol to edit it all out of the book.
Yeah.
Do people get upset when you take your
Uh-huh.
red pen? I didn't even get to the end of the sentence.
They do, and what makes it difficult because I'm not working with a publisher, so I'm just they're
Right.
trying to find an agent. So if they can't find an agent, it could be very much like, well, Carol, it's your fault because you told me to take this out, or
Right.
So it does become a little bit of a tap dance around all that, but
And really, the agents, it has absolutely nothing to do with that.
Right.
It has to
Right.
do with quotas and
Exactly.
things like that, and
Right.
and even with the big publishers, because I'm a publisher for those books that are not going to be taken by those
Right.
publishers,
Right.
because those publishers. I saw recently, statistically, 95% of the books taken by the big 5 make nothing.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so they know themselves, and certainly they're not going to mince words. They're not going to
Right.
take you unless you have, 1 million Twitter followers, or
Right.
they could even care less what the book says inside. It really has
Yep.
to do with platform.
Right.
And nobody wants to
Exactly.
hear that from me. They're like, but it's such a good book. Yeah, nobody cares.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true. It can be such an awesome, amazing book, but again.
Yeah, but even they are only, selling 5% of their books.
Yeah.
And it is wonderful
Yeah.
to know that on Amazon, 50% of the top 100 on the lists are self-published
Yeah.
or small publishers like
Right.
myself. That's
Right.
great.
Exactly.
That is just
Exactly.
great. And you have another book here,
Yeah.
which I didn't read this one yet, but I'm definitely reading this one next. The Author's Guide to Planning Book Events.
Yeah.
Well, I think step 1 is to call Turn of the Corkscrew.
I think so too.
And then you don't have to read the book. Then you could just call Turn of the Corkscrew, and you can have your author event right there.
Absolutely.
So why does it have to have all these pages?
I wrote that before Turn of the Corkscrew
Okay.
even existed. Yeah, actually, yeah. I was hired to write that. Somebody told me, and I said, I don't think I have enough information for a book. And then the more I wrote, I was like, oh yeah, you assume people know,
Right.
but they don't.
Right. They don't know a lot of things.
Right, exactly.
And
Yeah.
those are the people who should call.
I would think so. I tend to agree. Yeah.
But that's fabulous. That's fabulous because people need to know.
Right.
People,
Yeah.
and I'm going to read this one because I
Right. Well,
want
it should be updated too. I feel it's been.
How long ago was this?
That was about, I don't know how many years. Where are we? Maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So it
things have
needs to be-
changed.
Yeah, things have changed.
Things
but-
have changed.
Yeah, but
So since I know we have so many authors and prospective authors watching the show, what are your tips? What's going to help? I love do what works for you, but I know that's
right.
overwhelming for most people because they're like, tell me what to do.
Not to give up writing, and also don't give up your day job.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had people that come to me and they want me to, do publicity for their book, and I'll ask them, well, what are your hopes? And they say, well, and I've had a couple say, well, I've had one that was going to, when Oprah was on, he was going to pay for me to go to her show and hand her his book. I said, no, that's not happening. And then I had another one that told me that he wanted to quit his day job. That as long as he could make enough money to quit his day job. No.
You know, and what people will say to me, you know, oh, but there are authors making money. And yes,
there are.
And there are. And not just the big ones that you hear about. There are many, many smaller, you know, genre authors that are making a living at this. They are writing 3 books a year.
Right.
If you have 3 books a year in you to be writing, then yes, you can make money doing this. But if you're just going to write 1 book and you think that you're quitting your day job, that's that's just not it. 3 books a year in that genre, and then keeping up with your fans, building up your base, social media, et cetera, and so
Speaking
forth.
engagements, absolutely.
The whole thing. It has to be your full-time job.
Right. Exactly.
And you have to treat it like a business and run it like that. And then, is it possible? Sure.
Right.
It is possible. But most people think that 1 book
Yeah, no.
with none of that other stuff is
Exactly.
going to do it. So yeah, you want to write the 3 books a year?
Go for it.
It's a lot of books.
Yes.
But I know a perfect place to have your book signing party.
I do too. I do too, absolutely.
Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but while we're gone, you can go and Google Turn of the Corkscrew so you can know where to put your next author event. We'll be right back.
The sun is getting warmer, but when we soar away among the clouds, the sky is just a border, but when we're floating up like helium.
Do you have a book, either in your head or on your desk, just waiting to get out to anxious readers? Hi, I'm Stephanie Larkin, author, book developer, and head penguin at Red Penguin Books. We're a publishing company specializing in books of all genres and publishing in all formats, including digital, audible, and print books. From business books to romance, memoirs to mysteries, our authors have complete control over their books from start to print. We'll help get your book to booksellers all around. Major booksellers such as Amazon, Apple, Kobo, Walmart, even libraries and bookstores around the world. We believe in our authors. So call or email today to get your free publisher's packet to get started. Just visit us at redpenguinbooks.com and get your book out there and into the hands of your readers. At Red Penguin Books, you call all the shots. So call us today and turn your dreams into a reality. Welcome back to Between the Covers TV. We're so delighted to have our next author guest, Michael Vecchione. Thank you, Michael. Wow, tonight must be Wear Black night. I didn't get the memo. I have black pants on, so I'm good.
I got half a memo.
I got half a memo. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You have quite the life.
I did have quite the life. I have a different life now, but it's a it's one that I can put between the covers.
You're safely here. Nice. Well, first, let me give you your Between the Covers membership card.
Thank you.
But if they take you down in Brooklyn, don't show them that.
It's not a get out of jail card.
It's not a get out of jail free card. I should have gotten one of those from a Monopoly set.
I used to have that in my back pocket all the time, but anyway, not any longer.
Too funny. Well, Michael is the co-author of Crooked Brooklyn, Taking Down Corrupt Judges, Dirty Politicians, Killers, and Body Snatchers. Love that, yes. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I think we have a slide for Michael that shows that. And also his newest book, Behind the Murder Curtain. Special Agent Bruce Sackham hunts doctors and nurses who kill our veterans. Ooh, I'm ticked. That's a thing?
Yes, it is.
Now I'm ticked.
Yeah. You need to read it and find out how pervasive it actually is.
Oh.
So, and there's stories every day about doctors and medical professionals who do bad things to patients. But these were murderers. They're not. This was not something that.
It's not an accident.
Not an accident. Not a mercy killing. They were killing for the sake of killing for various reasons. But it's a story that when I first heard it from Bruce, actually made the hair on the back of my neck stand up, because I had just come out of the hospital, and when he told me about this, and I was thinking about how, in the evening when you're half asleep and a nurse comes in with the medicine and says, "Here, take this."
Right.
You just take it.
You just take it. You're right. You just take it.
In this book, when a nurse came in with medicine in a syringe and put it into an IV, that was it. The person would just simply die. And it's a chilling story, quite frankly.
Oh my God, that's horrible. And all the more chilling because it's true.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Even when I was reading Crooked Brooklyn, the stories in here, I'm not watching, some crime drama on TV.
You will be soon, hopefully. CBS bought this.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you. CBS bought this, and we sold Murder Curtain to a Hollywood company for a movie, Proxima Entertainment. And so we hope that you'll be able to watch this every week on Channel 2. And,
wow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, tell us about what you did, what was your role, and how you got firsthand look at all these stories.
Well, first of all, with Crooked Brooklyn, I was the chief of the rackets division in the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office for about 13 years. And for a period of about 7 years, I personally did a series of corruption investigations involving judges, politicians, detectives, retired detectives who were killing people, an FBI agent, a retired FBI agent, and the body snatcher was a dentist, a very, very famous and prosperous dental surgeon who was actually kind of got addicted to Demerol, and he lost his license because one day, believe it or not, he fell asleep in the middle of a dental surgery. He finally lost his license. He was living a very, very high lifestyle, had a big, big house over in Fort Lee, New Jersey, and needed to keep up that lifestyle. So he knew from his dental practice and from the surgery part of the dental practice, that bone and tissue was a very big part of it, because if you needed to put an implant in someone's mouth, bone would be put there first, and bone knits, so it would kind of form a very secure location for the implant. And he knew that that was a very, very difficult thing to find in the world. People are not going to necessarily give up their bones, obviously. So, but what he did was he came up with the idea of going to various funeral homes around the New York metropolitan area, and in particular one in Brooklyn, which brought him into our purview. And the individual who owned the funeral parlor in Brooklyn was what I would call half a wise guy. He owed money to the mob, and he was looking for any way to make money. And Mastro Marino, who is the dental surgeon, came to him and said, "Look, I will pay you X amount of dollars for every body that you give me before you have an opportunity to prepare it for either a wake or for cremation." And he had a group of people who would go in, and they had a secret room in this funeral home in Brooklyn, where you couldn't see it from the outside. And if they came into the back of the funeral home with a hearse, they would roll the cadaver onto a platform, and the platform would rise up into the floor of the upstairs, the second floor of the funeral home, and that was the secret room where they would do all the cutting out of the view of the people whose loved ones were there, etc. And then they would take those bones and particularly bone, they would take them and sell them to processing companies around the country. Now, if you needed an implant for your tooth, if you needed to have an implant in your arm or your leg, that's the place where your doctor would go to purchase the piece of bone or the actual bone itself.
Right.
What Mastro Marino was doing is he didn't care whether or not you died or the cadaver died of HIV, hepatitis,
Ooh.
if the cadaver was 95 years old, as it was with Alistair Cook, the famous host of Masterpiece Theater. He was cremated, and before he was cremated, Mastro Marino got to him and took basically everything out of his body and sold it. Now, if I needed a leg bone, I don't want it from a 95-year-old individual,
Right.
correct? So we discovered Alistair Cook because his daughter contacted us at one point and said, I think there's something up with my dad, and there was something up with her dad. And we had records, over 1,000 bodies that he had ravaged, and one of them turned out to be Alistair Cook. And she said to me at one point, I knew something was amiss, because when they gave me my father's ashes, and I went to the location where I wanted to spread them, they were like baby powder. It was not something that I expected, because when you cremate a body, you get little bits of bone and other things. And she said, I knew something was wrong. And it turns out that he was ravaged, basically, by these people. So that's the body the body snatcher part of the of Crooked Brooklyn. I am responsible for putting 3 Supreme Court judges in jail. Nobody has ever done that before. I'm responsible for doing the investigation into 2 detectives that were working for the NYPD, who were basically hitmen for the mob. They were on the mob payroll.
Did you come here with a bodyguard?
Well, it's funny. My fiancée Lenore's in the audience, and when I first met her, it's one of the questions she asked me was, am I okay? And then her mother asked her, is she okay? Is my daughter okay walking with you? Well, it turns out, as if you read the book, I did a lot of things that caused people to be very upset. And I got a call one day from a detective in my office who said, someone wants to kill you. And I laughed. He said, don't laugh. Come upstairs. I went up to the squad room, and he had a guy in there. And he told me that, actually said to the guy, tell this guy what you just told us. He said, well, there's some guy named Vecchione who there's a contract out on his life. Oh, God. So I said, well, that's me. What happened? Well, he told me that he took the contract. And he was going to get out of jail.
Oh my gosh!
And he was going to do what he had to do to me.
Right.
Instead, he became an informant, and we wired him up, and we ultimately were able to quell the whole problem, And I asked him, why did they put a contract out on me? I mean, I did a lot of cases, and I did a lot of cases involving mobsters, etc. He said, you did a case involving a guy named D'Amico, and I said, yeah. He said, well. You had a young female assistant DA stand up the day of the sentence and make the pitch for the sentence that he was going to receive, and I said, yeah, I did. He said, well, that's why I wanted to kill you, because you disrespected him by having a young female do this. You didn't give him the respect that he thought he deserved.
Oh my goodness!
You never know what pisses people off.
Yeah. So that led to the DA having detectives live with me for a couple of months, and then I was involved in another big investigation involving the head of the Democratic Party in Brooklyn and the 3rd-ranking member of the New York State Assembly, a guy named Clarence Norman. And on the day of his surrender, he was surrendering in the evening, and unlike what the FBI did with this guy Stone recently, we had him come to the office and surrender to us. And before he came to the office, I get a call from my sister, and my sister said, I think you better come home. I was living with my father at the time. I was divorced. I was living upstairs in the apartment upstairs in my father's house. And I said, what's the matter? And she said, well, the place has been burglarized. Someone broke in, and I go home, and I walk into my father's apartment, basically untouched, except for the door that was kicked in on the side. I go upstairs to my place, and it was as if a tornado had gone through it. Every drawer was opened, every closet was opened. I had all of the cash that I had around stolen. All of my watches were stolen. All of my shields, because I had basically DA shields from all of the positions I had in the office, all stolen.
Right.
And then I went downstairs to the basement, which was a finished basement, and I found that whoever the perpetrator was, whoever the burglar was, whoever the bad guy was, went into, stuffed the toilet, the commode in the toilet down there, with toilet paper and paper towels, and then defecated into it, flushed it several times, so that all of the feces and water was all over the basement. It was a message. And when, my friends, detective friends said to me, who did you piss off? Excuse my French. So I said, well, what do you know? You got a list? It was everybody. They said, well, it's clearly a message. This was aimed at you.
Right.
Shortly thereafter, I was going to, I had an office car, and I had gone to the gym early in the morning. I came back to the driveway of my dad's house, parked the car, went inside, showered, shaved, got ready for work, and came out, and back windshield of my car was completely broken. I looked up and down the block to see if anyone else had been vandalized, and they hadn't. So I get to the office, and I give the car in, tell them you got to fix the window, and I get a call about, I don't know, maybe several hours later from one of the good detectives that we had in our office, one of the assistant chiefs, good friend of mine, George Terra, who's mentioned all over this book. And George said to me, you smoke? So I said, no, I don't smoke. What do you mean, cigarettes? He goes, no. I said, Mike, come on, you know what I'm talking about. You smoke marijuana? I said, no, I don't. Why? He said, well, when they were fixing the window, up in the place where the window met the ceiling in the inside of the car was a big stash of marijuana.
Wow.
So someone had planted it in there and was trying to set me up. So that made the DA even more crazy. And then he had cameras in front of the house, in the back of the house. I had detectives living outside. And I had they came in and put this panic alarm in the house. And it was one of those things where I was supposed to wear this button around the house when I was home. My dad had it. So I said to the detective who put it in, I just was kind of kidding with him. And I said, so what happens if by mistake I
Press the button.
I do that? He said, don't do that. He said, the world is going to respond.
Wow.
You're going to have this guy in this place. So that was, that was the kind of end result to all of this.
We'll be watching it on CBS. And don't forget his new book, Behind the Murder Curtain. We're going to take a quick break. You can go to Amazon,
Walmart, and bookstores.
And hopefully Turn of the Corkscrew.
Absolutely.
We'll get it in there too.
So I'm glad that I was
forget
here
that.
because we are hopefully going to set something up with.
We'll go to a quick commercial and be back. Thanks.
Me llaman Dan Pablo y hace más de 20 años me enamoré de una colombiana. Viajé a su país y conocí un estilo de café muy distinto, muy especial. Ahora tostamos cafés excelentes, con alturas y microclimas diferentes, resultado en una taza muy compleja y muy rica, un sabor nuevo en el mundo. Fue un éxito. And I even got to keep the girl.
The only way you make money.
Welcome back to Between the Covers. And please welcome author Teddy Crawford. Hey. Well, Teddy, you came in at exactly the right time.
Yes.
Because you are an expert in personal protection, what to do when there are bad guys who have you on a hit list.
Right.
Where were you 5 years?
Absolutely. Teddy's the author of Right Foot First, a practical guide to self-safety, wellness, awareness, and keeping fit for life. And if your name is on one of those bad hit lists, what we should do.
Right. So the idea is I am on a mission to have people become more aware.
Yes.
Oh,
you mean they shouldn't walk around on their cell phones?
Oh my gosh,
They shouldn't.
thank you.
And they walk into a canal and die or into a pothole. Never mind the bad guys who could just Take that right out of their hands.
Yeah, right. And so what triggered this urgency in me to do the book was that I was working at Grand Central Partnership as a security because I have experience as a cop. I spent 12 years as a cop in Jamaica, where I'm from. And from very early, I spent the years as a police cadet, and my job was to bring the pictures of the victims of the week before to my superiors.
Oh.
And in my book, I mentioned where I said I spoke with the dead. And I honestly did, because as I go through the pictures, I would look at these ladies, mostly ladies, with their necks cut from corner to corner with scab wounds. And I find myself asking them, what did you do when they were doing this to you? Did you fight back? Did you resist? And so from that, I was like 17 years and 6 months old.
Right.
Because I wasn't old enough to become a regular cop. So I worked as a cadet in the meanwhile. So I found myself asking the pictures, what were you doing when they were doing this to you? You know, And so from that very early age, I became very concerned about the mistreatment of women. In one of my recent posts on my page, somebody asked me just to break off a little bit, one of my most followed posts asked the question, or posed that friends do not allow friends to go off with a stranger, even if he's hot.
Yes.
You're right.
And
No, you're right.
one person asked me, so we can't pick up a girl at the bar anymore? I said, no, that's not the point. You can, but that girl is going to be a very aware person, and her friends should not allow it to happen unless they check you out and tell you that we know that she's going out with you, and so if she doesn't turn up, we know who the person is.
That's right.
So from then, I started to look at this whole idea of, can we do anything to make ourselves less of a target? And that is what my book is about. 3 prongs, the personal safety mindset. I coach people in how to become less of a target, because I also, as a cop, I spent a whole night with a guy handcuffed to a bed. He was a murderer, and so I gave him a cigarette, and I just asked him, how do you choose your victim? And he said, well, we look for people who are not aware, people who look like they're lost, people who are tired, sick, and those are the people they attack. So, you know, the whole idea is, as things are going right now, in my book, I didn't go for statistics. If people don't believe what I say, just Google crimes happening last night in New York. And right now, because if I ask you, do you know how many people got stabbed, punched, robbed, raped last night? No, but it happened. And so my mission is to bring an awareness to people. I want people to be aware that you can do, you won't change the world. But if you do your part and the next person, does his or her part, suddenly we develop a community of people who are very aware. And so that I know crime, because the first thing that happens when, for example, there's a shooting in a school, and I'm mixing things up, given the time, is that nobody remember the person who got killed. We're wondering, how did the guy get the gun? Did he buy it?
Right.
My point is, I help you where you're confronted with the gun. I don't care if you found the gun, bought the gun, borrowed the gun.
Right.
It doesn't matter. And nobody cares about the dead person. Everybody, did he buy it? Is he of sound mind? Is he? That does not matter. My concern is that young girl who is dragged in a dark alley and raped while she's going home from school. And so I'm saying that there's a way to make yourself very unattractive to a bad guy. Ladies, you'll know, if you recall, when you're in high school, there's always a guy who's picking on you that you don't like. If you're walking down the hallway and he's coming toward you, you could put a look on your face that tells him, not today. And he just passed you, right? Yeah, that's true. You could transfer that message without saying a thing. So I'm saying, if we're aware, if we become more aware of our surroundings, who we're passing, who we're interacting with, suddenly you do it, I do it, the other guy does it. We start to develop a community of people who are aware. And so now the bad guy, because I say they're as lazy as the rest of us. They don't want to work hard. If you make yourself look difficult, they pass you by.
Right. So awareness is the first thing.
awareness
Just not being so enwrapped in
anything
your
that you
phone
don't, right.
or whatever it is, and 90% of the time nowadays it's the phones that
It
I
is.
see.
That is, yeah.
You can't even walk down 6th Avenue without people crashing into you because
Yep.
they're looking
Yeah,
at their
so
phone.
people are going around and they don't keep and also parents, you can share information with your child, your daughter who is of dating age, and I share this with Carol. If your daughter is going out with a guy, the first thing she should do, and please write this down, when the guy comes to pick her up, give them your best wishes, but have your daughter take a selfie with the guy. Say, hi, let's do a selfie. Boom, and you take a selfie, both of you.
Oh.
And then let him see you sending that selfie to Mom, I'm going, or Jane, my
Yes,
friend,
yes.
I'm going out with so and so.
Oh, I like that.
I guarantee you nothing is going to happen to her that night.
I like that. That's easy enough.
Yeah, recently there was a girl who was found dead. She worked with Northern Hospital up in somewhere in Nassau County. They found her dead, strangled. Nobody knew who did it. So, for several, they were wondering. The dad is saying they couldn't tell what happened. So, of course, as usual, everybody forget it. A week later, they found a guy in California
Oh my gosh.
with a guy tied up. He was getting ready to kill her. It's the same guy who killed the girl over here in Long Island.
Wow. So just taking that picture is going to
Is going to
deter whatever thoughts they had because they're on a picture now.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
in,
like
in
that
school.
one.
That's a nice
Yeah. Take a selfie because, all right, and make sure he sees you sending it.
sending it. Right.
He's going to go out of his way to make sure you reach back home safely.
Yes, I like that.
My whole mission is I don't want to get into the politics of what's happening. Where I come in, where I can coach you, where I can teach you is where you're confronted with the bad guy. Recently in Rockville Center, I think, a girl was raped or in Freeport. 4 hours right on her front lawn.
Oh, really?
Right?
Oh my gosh.
And I'm going rapid here. Recently, I read a news. A lady was walking in Paris, and she was passing a guy, and the guy said something to her, and she responded, and I saw it because there are cameras everywhere.
Right, right.
And the guy turned back and he socked her so hard in the face. I mean, I felt it. And you know what she said? She said she took the punch with as much courage as she could.
Oh, wow.
There is something almost disrespectful about that level of callousness. He hit her so hard, and her response was she took the punch with as much. Now the question is, why would a person feel that he can do that and get away with it? And this goes also to spousal abuse. When a guy's dating a girl, in the first few weeks, he'd ask permission. May I touch your hand? Right? Mm-hmm. He'd ask permission to even touch her hand.
Right.
6 weeks into the marriage, he wouldn't believe that he can't slap you all around the house.
Right.
Now, at what point did it suddenly occur to him that it was okay to beat you up for 5, 6 years? Right? So it's important to set the guidelines on the outset.
Right.
When you're dating a guy, tell him up front, I love you, but I am not into the hitting things. There's a point in the dating game where men will literally hear what you're saying out your mouth. And that is the point where you tell him, I love you, and don't go to any fancy restaurant. Sit at a small table where you can look right in his eyes. Say to him, I love you, but I'm not in the beating thing. You're laying the ground rules up front. Another thing is my daughter, Tamara, TT. Hi, TT, I hope you're watching. She's 11, and here's a conversation between me and her on any given school day. I'd be at home writing. I just retired after teaching for 20 years in New York. And she'd say to me, Papi, I'm on the bus. And I said, texted back, okay. 10 minutes later, she says, Papi, I'm off the bus. And my response is PSM, the personal safety mindset.
Yep.
Once I say that to her, she's no longer a naive 5th grader.
Yeah.
She's now a changed person. She's an aware, ready 5th grader walking home until she meets me at the door. All I need to say is PSM, and that sums up, and that's what in this book. If you read, and by the way, I don't understand how people aren't making, like Mr. V here. If you buy the book, you'll get the information. It's there. Take 5 minutes every day and read something.
Yes.
You know,
But this-
there's no, I mean, you have to be looking out the window. If you read it, you will fall among the few who will survive what I call nowadays a pop-up attack, where people just slash you for no reason.
Right.
Nobody knows why. It doesn't matter why.
So where can we find this book so we can learn more?
It's at
Turn of the
Corkscrew.
Absolutely.
It's at teddycrawford.com,
Terrific.
and it's at Amazon, Barnes and Noble.
All those places. All right,
Yes.
we're going to take a quick commercial break, and thank goodness we learned something about getting home
Please
tonight.
be aware.
PSM,
You have to
everyone.
know what to
We'll be
do.
right
Like
back.
that. Yeah.
The sun is getting warmer. But when we soar away among the clouds, the sky is just a border. But when we're floating up like helium,
Me llaman Don Pablo y hace más de 20 años me enamoré de una colombiana. Viajé a su país y conocí un estilo de café muy distinto, muy especial. Ahora tostamos cafés excelentes, con alturas y microclimas diferentes, resultado en una taza muy compleja y muy rica. Un sabor nuevo en el mundo. Fue un éxito. And I even got to keep the girl.
Where would they get it
Welcome
from?
back to Between the Covers TV. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, besides being fabulous authors, our authors are also fabulous readers. So I'm dying to hear, what are you reading? Carol, you must read a million things because you
Well,
own a bookstore.
I do, but I read mostly manuscripts because that's what I do.
I know, I
for
feel
my
that way
work.
too.
Really, I don't get a chance to read all those wonderful books. One book I love though, and I brought with me, is The Art of Hearing. The Art of Hearing Heartbeats, and it's by Jan Philip Senker. And I read this like 3 or 4 years ago, and there's something special when a book stays with you.
Yes.
And when you asked me to bring something, I was like, this is what I had to bring.
Wow.
I
And
took
when
it
you
off the
told me-
bookshelf.
Oh, you took it off the bookshelf.
I took it off the book.
In the
Sorry,
store.
Peggy, my business partner. I'm bringing it back.
All
But,
right,
yeah.
I'm going to have to file that away because I'm always reading manuscripts. And of course, authors' books who are on the show.
Right.
So I'm pretty busy, but that sounds like
I
a good
love
one.
it, love
Mike,
it.
what are you reading?
I love Michael Connelly, the author who
Oh,
writes true
sure.
crime novels. I'm reading one now called Void Moon. But I love his Bosch novels about Detective Bosch in L.A., and I've read all 20 of those books, and I love those. And Ken Follett's another
Oh,
favorite.
fantastic.
I love
Yeah,
Ken
the
Follett.
trilogy.
Absolutely.
The Century Trilogy is a great, great series of books by Ken Follett.
And I know Mike didn't bring any books with him because he reads on his Kindle.
Exactly.
We'll forgive him.
I'm having the shakes.
Well, there are about 50 books on that.
I
If brought 'em
understand.
all
I
in,
have
I'd
a
have
million.
a-
I
so-
understand.
And there's nothing wrong with Kindle.
I hear you. No, I have them all on my iPad because I'm reading so many books.
Right, right.
I get it. Just that my bookstore owner over there is breaking out into hives, but that's okay.
That's okay.
It's okay. What are you reading?
I'm reading, so you want to write a screenplay.
Oh, okay.
Because my daughter, TT, the same TT and myself, we're writing a second book called Summer Child. And
Nice.
it's about a young girl who turned up in a town and nobody knows where she's going, but there's a tree she's searching for. It blooms once a year and she has to find it, witness the blooming, and that will open up the questions regarding her whole history.
Oh, that's great.
Wow, that
That's
sounds
great.
Yes,
fabulous. Well,
so-
we're going to have you and TT on our
Definitely.
show.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
So we're working on that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on Between the Covers. Visit us at BetweenTheCoversTV.com if you would like to be an author guest on our show. Next week, we are having our infamous Outlander special, so don your tartan and join us for our Outlander special next week. Thank you so much for joining us, and please, read a book. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Now stay here. I just want to get a picture.
Oh, okay.